Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today, as you can see right here in front of you, we have a figure that I have been looking forward to reviewing for quite a long time. It's been teased for quite a while, and only recently has finally started to actually get released. I think it's been out for about a month now. It took me a little bit of time to get one because I had some issues with the seller that I purchased it from on eBay, where he was actually a scam artist, but then I ended up getting one anyway. Regardless, here is the Nanmu Berzerker Rex. Now, of course, it is obviously the Indominus Rex, but they can't really use Indominus Rex on the box or anything as far as the promotion goes of the figure, because that would be a hefty lawsuit, as I'm sure they do not have the license to sell Jurassic figures, so they're going to have to go with a code name, and that would be the Berzerker Rex. And as I said, it is pretty much the Indominus Rex. Here is the box. The box actually is much smaller than I expected considering the size of the figure, but it does fit in there quite nicely, and you've got a beautiful image there on the front of the actual Berzerker Indominus Rex. And then you've got some writing over here, and then that's pretty much it as far as the box goes. There isn't too much else. So let's get the figure out of the box. So the figure is actually really nicely packaged in there inside of foam, and it's really safe. There won't be any kind of damage to your figure when it comes as far as transit goes, because it is really nicely and safely packaged in there. As long as you get the version with the box, it'll get to you in perfect condition. There are sellers selling it without the box, as the box definitely increases your shipping cost. But as far as getting the box, I think the box is pretty nice. And you also get this, which is awesome. If you can see here, this, let's get him out of there, is actually a very small John Hammond figure that does come with the Berzerker Indominus Rex, which is kind of strange considering John Hammond never actually got to see the Indominus Rex and had absolutely nothing to do with John Hammond, as that was a Jurassic World figure and he was the man behind Jurassic Park. Doesn't really balance out too well for some reason. Well, Hammond wants to take a nap. We'll put him back there up against the back. And without further ado, there is the Berzerker Rex, the Indominus Rex, whatever you want to call it. And I can definitely say without question that this is absolutely beautiful in person. I was really wondering if the paint job would match up to what you saw in the promotional images, and I can say without question that it really does. It really looks beautiful. The paint just looks fantastic. Maybe not exactly what you see on the Indominus. It's a little more gray, I think, than the white, which is what you see more so on the Indominus, but it does still look really nice. And overall, it gives me a very Rebor vibe. It's very similar to Rebor. The tail is actually articulated and bendable, similar to what you see with Rebor. And the overall figure really, like I said, gives me a very Rebor vibe. But to really take a look at the figure, we're going to have to get a closer look, so let's do that now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that the actual sculpting of the scales and everything is really incredibly done. There is just tons and tons of sculpt work that has gone into this. You can see even on the teeth, there is actual little cracks and crevices within the teeth that really make them look very realistic and very legit. Even the eye looks fantastic, and the eye actually has beautiful paint applied to it. Get in here a little closer and maybe focus. It doesn't want to focus too well, but it's good enough, I guess. You can see that the eye is red, but then it has some yellow in it, and then the black pupil. So the eye itself really looks nice, has a beautiful gloss to it as well. So it looks very lifelike and very real. The overall sculpting of the head, like I said, looks really good. There are all sorts of very small, minute details and sculpt work that has been put into it. I think the only thing, honestly, that's missing from the entire head or neck area is the quills that you see on the back of the Indominus Rex as far as the neck goes. But that doesn't really take away from the figure. I think it still looks really nice. The jaw is articulated, but it's actually pretty stiff. As I said, the jaw is actually pretty stiff, so it takes a little work to get it open. And the teeth themselves are actually kind of sharp. They're definitely very pointy, so I often grab the teeth like this to try to open it, but I continuously get stabbed in the finger, as you can see there, because the teeth are actually somewhat sharp, which in my opinion is a good thing, especially if you're a collector. Maybe not so much if you're going to buy this as a toy, but if you're collecting it for the sake of having a beautiful version of an Indominus Rex, that's fantastic because it looks a lot more realistic and more closer to what you actually see in the film. It's not like having Schleich teeth where the teeth are rounded off and they don't look very real. These teeth, I think, look very, very real, and they look beautiful. You can see there is actually a gloss over the teeth, making them again look very genuine and very realistic. The inside of the mouth is really nicely painted and also has a beautiful gloss. I think everything in there just looks super real. The tongue and everything, I feel like, is really painted to perfection as far as that goes. Even the skin flap on the inside of the mouth here also has a beautiful gloss. So the entire inside of the mouth just looks super, super real to me. The teeth are painted with more of a yellowish color as opposed to a white, again giving them a much more realistic look as well. And they appear to be sculpted exactly as you see on the Indominus Rex, all kind of all over the place, similar to like a V-Rex or a crocodile. And I really like the way that looks. I think it looks fantastic. The sculpt and detail all around the eye really looks good as well. The entire head sculpt, honestly, is just beautiful. It's really something that just kind of puts you in awe when you open it up, especially if you are a fan of Jurassic World. As you start to come down the neck, you can see some osteoderms starting to appear, and the beautiful scaling looks fantastic. You get some skin folds down here in the neck and throat area. And the scale work is really impressive to me because there are so many different scales and they're all sculpted to different sizes, it seems. So that's super impressive. The sheer amount of sculpt work that has gone into this blows me away. Then as you run down here into the shoulder, you can actually see a seam here where the arm was connected. I don't really think it takes away from the figure at all, honestly, and it's not something you notice really if you get a little further away. But it is definitely there, it's definitely visible, and I think in the future maybe Nanmu could work on the seams a little more, maybe get them to look a little less visible, but as I said, it doesn't really bother me at all on this figure, so it's not a very big deal. Once again, that beautiful scale work and those nice osteoderms are all over the place. Coming down here into the arm, you can see some very nice musculature, and once again, the sculpt work just looks fantastic. You've got some little osteoderms here on the arm, and you come down into the hands. The hands look perfect, honestly. Really what I would expect the Indominus hands to look like. Nicely painted nails. They're a nice black color. They have a very creepy vibe to the hands. Beautiful sculpting all over the place. And then coming back up here into the stomach, you can see those scales are just really nicely sculpted all over the place. They look beautiful. You can't see too much as far as the stomach detail here because the left leg here is rearing up into the stomach. You can kind of take note here of the rib cage in the stomach region. And then as you run back, you can see some of these big bumps on the top of the back and everything. Just run the course of the back. Coming down into the leg, you can see the hip bone is somewhat elaborated. And right here in front of the leg, you can really see the body right in this area reacting to the movement of the dinosaur. So that looks very cool. A nice attention to detail on the part of Nanmu. For some reason, mine has like a little fuzzy area right here. I have no idea what that is or why that's there. I don't think it's supposed to be, as it's not on this side. But that is there, and again, I don't know, I guess it's probably just a flaw or something with my figure. But as you run down here into the thigh, you can see that the musculature looks very nice. Big, bulky, muscular thigh area of this dinosaur. You can see the beautiful sculpt work there as well. And then when you get down here into the knee, you can once again see the seam where the leg was connected. And this one is much more visible than the shoulder area was. But once again, from a step back, it's not that bad. You don't really notice it too well, but it is definitely there, and it's much more visible than the shoulder area. But again, something that maybe Nanmu can work on in the future. Very large calf muscle there. That calf muscle is just bulgingly huge. And then you come down, once again, there's another seam to where the foot was connected to the ankle area, but it doesn't look that bad. It's actually a little worse, I think, than up here, but it's not terrible. I think the only reason I think it's a little worse than up here is just because right here you can actually see the opening there. You can see my finger behind it, right in this beginning part here. But again, from a step back, it doesn't look so bad. You don't really notice it too much. The feet look fantastic, beautifully sculpted, and the nails are painted very, very nicely. The overall paint applied to this figure just looks great. It really, really does. I think the coloration is really close to what you see on the Indominus, but the Indominus itself is a little more white than you see on this figure, but there are so many different tones of coloration, honestly. You can even pick up on maybe like a light brown right here in the hip area. So I really love the very realistic look as far as the coloration goes on this figure. And then you can see right here behind the thigh, you can see the leg pulling the skin forward. There are some wrinkling here going on of the skin, and it looks great. The whole figure really looks good as far as the way the body is reacting to the movement of the dinosaur, and I really love that Nanmu has gone so far as to put that kind of attention into their figure and their sculpt, and it really pays off, I think, making this probably the best Indominus Rex figure there is. Once again, we've got another seam here where the tail does connect, and this one is really quite visible. Even from a step back, you can definitely notice it, but it's not, again, a big deal to me. I don't really mind seams because you do have to connect the body parts somehow, so it's not that bad. But if you have a problem with seams, this may not be the best figure for you, but I really don't mind them that much, so it's not a bother. And then you can run out the length of the tail. The sculpt work is fantastic the entire way out. Those scales look great. Osteoderms all over the place. Some slight skin folds here on the bottom of the tail. And then it runs out very, very nicely. And again, I have it curved into this position because the tail is flexible. Looking at the opposing side now, the eye is actually a little sloppily painted on mine, I think. Right there. You can see that the black pupil isn't exactly in the middle of the yellow where it should be, but that's probably just limited to my figure. Again, the sculpt work, the majority of it is very similar, pretty much with the same thing that you see on the opposing side. Same issue here where you can see the seam. I think the seam on the shoulder is a little more visible on this side, but it's again not that big of a deal to me. And you can see the nice musculature here in the arm, in the upper part of the arm. The arm is bent a little bit more so than the opposing arm. And you can really see the body reacting to the way it is bent, even up here into the stomach. It's kind of bunching the skin up a little bit. And the hand looks really nice on this side as well. And then coming back into the stomach, you can see some more beautiful scale work and nice osteoderms. You can once again take note of the skin folds here and the pulling of the skin as this leg is rearing back. It really, really looks good the way that they've done that and looks very real. It honestly looks like that is exactly the way the body would be reacting to that kind of a movement. Once again, beautiful thigh muscle here. And then you come down, you can see the seam here where the leg connects. And then again in the ankle area, beautiful kneecap there, nice musculature of the calf. And the scale work is beautiful everywhere. The foot looks like it's in exactly the perfect position for the way it's taking a step. Overall, the sculpting looks fantastic. And then you come up here into the tail. Again, that seam where the tail connects. But then you run out that tail and the tail looks great the whole way out. Even the underside of the figure sports some really incredible sculpt work and fantastic paint application pretty much everywhere you look. And a quick glance at our friend John Hammond. You could see that with some paint application this would actually probably look really, really nice. And I may at some point paint him. I'm not sure. I kind of like to keep my stuff original, but I would really like to see this with paint. And I think that a nice John Hammond figure would be a great addition to my collection. And something I would definitely like to display with some of my Jurassic figures. Now, as I mentioned, the articulation here, the tail is very, very flexible, so you can bend it to however you would like. And at the end, it kind of stops right about here, and it's no longer bendable. I mean, you can bend it, but it won't stay in place. Not like here, where you can bend it and then have it stay, although it kind of wants to come back a little bit. It doesn't work quite as well as the rebore tails do, but it still works pretty well, and it's a nice touch to this already beautiful figure. And then once again, you have the articulation in the jaw, and it works pretty good, but like I said, it's a little stiff. It's hard to really open and close with one hand, so you might have to use two hands, one to hold the figure, the other to open the mouth, but overall, I think it works really quite well. As far as a size goes on the Berzerker Rex, he is quite the big figure. I'm not probably even going to be able to get him in frame here. Straighten his tail out a little bit. So from the head to the tail, you are looking at about, if the tail's stretched, about 17 inches long, or about 43 centimeters. Couldn't really see that on camera, but trust me, that's about what it's at. And for a height, the highest point's probably going to be the hip area. You're looking at about 5.5 inches. If you go to the tip of the tail when you have the tail straightened, because the tail goes up pretty high, you're looking at about 7.5 inches, or about 19 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is the Papo T-Rex, and you can see that this Berzerker Rex is just super, super big compared to the Papo Rex. But I think it does make for a pretty cool diorama. If you put two of these figures together, I think it looks really quite cool. The Rex is definitely a good bit larger, but that is because the Rex is standing upright, whereas the Indominus is down pretty much on all fours. So Again, I think they size fairly well together. The Indominus in the film is definitely larger than the Rex, and I think maybe the Rex should be a little smaller in comparison. But again, I don't know for sure that these two are really supposed to be to scale with each other. And I do believe at some point Nanmu will probably pull out a Tyrannosaurus Rex that will be perfectly to scale with this Indominus. And actually, I've had a few people mention that I should do more size comparisons with other figures, but I honestly try to keep the Papo Rex pretty much the only one that I do the size comparisons with. Sometimes I'll switch it up, but for the most part I try to keep the Papo Rex because then you can relate to other videos. If there's another video I've done where I've done a size comparison with the Papo Rex and it's of a figure that you do have, then you should be able to compare it with this, because the odds of me going and finding a figure that every single person has would be pretty hard to do. And I think most people, if you're a dinosaur collector, as long as it's not just specifically Jurassic Park anyway, would probably have the Papo Rex. So I try to keep it with that, but I will try to introduce some other figures in the very near future to do size comparisons with. So this Nanmu Berzerker Rex is awesome. It really is. It's definitely the best Indominus Rex figure that we have ever had from any company. It just absolutely destroys the Hasbro one. It's definitely better than the one that you got with the Blu-ray set, which was actually a really nice Indominus Rex, I will say that. But this one beats it for sure. It's got much more detail, much better paint, and everything on this just really looks beautiful. Gloss is applied where gloss needs to be applied to make it look very lifelike and very realistic. And overall, the detailing and sculpt is absolutely jaw-dropping. It really is quite amazing how much sculpt and detail has been put into this Nanmu Berzerker Rex. The only thing I think I could say as far as what they could improve on would be those seams, but they don't really bother me too much. In the future, it's definitely something that I'm sure they'll improve on, and they'll get better, as this is, I believe, their very first figure as far as these go. Nanmu had some older resin models that were absolutely beautiful. I never, unfortunately, were able to get a hold of any, but those look fantastic. But as far as these type of figures, you know, similar to Rebor and Papo and stuff, I believe the Nanmu Berzerker Rex here is the very first one, and I think they did an absolutely bang-up job on this. Really knocked this straight out of the park and gave everybody the Indominus Rex that pretty much we've all been wanting for years. Again, that's my opinion. You may think differently, but this thing honestly just needs to be seen in person to really take it all in and appreciate it for what it is. It's just that beautiful. So if you do want to order one of these, I will throw a link in the description to an AliExpress seller that I use often. I actually made the mistake of ordering this from someone else before he actually put it in his store, and that ran me into a few problems trying to get a hold of it. But I will link you to the seller that I purchase stuff from normally from AliExpress, who is selling this figure, and he is a very trustworthy seller. You should have no problem at all getting it in a timely manner and in perfect condition. So check the description if you do want to order this Nanmu Berzerker Rex. I highly recommend it if you are a fan of the Indominus Rex or Jurassic films in general. And please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.